Daniel, I begin by saying this. I saw a president for the first time, a new one, who was really reaching across the aisle to grab everyone's hands. Is that possible that you can please everybody at the same time?
Well, you can certainly try to do that in your first speech as president, and long may that last. It was an impressive, I think, acceptance speech within Parliament. Yes, you're right. There was a degree of cooperation rather than this sort of adversarial relationship that has existed for far too long between President Zuma and the opposition. The president really did give time to answering the opposition comments. And he was indeed, I think, more cooperative, promising to meet regularly. In fact, he was diametrically opposed to what we've had over the last number of years. The pendulum of leadership in South Africa really has swung maximum from one extreme to the other.
For sure. I mean, Daniel, President Ramaphosa saying corruption, state-owned enterprises and state capture will be on his radar. From this, do you deduce that we could possibly see President Zuma soon facing up to the criminal charges that he or levied against him, and even some of the members there in the ANC who have also got some controversies tied up with them?
Yeah, I think the really awkward part, I suppose, other than President Zuma, is what happens to others who are very closely linked with the top six, and furthermore, if there are any others in the NEC as well. And there's going to be an awkward period, no doubt, when those realities are faced. So the euphoria, in a sense, of yesterday and today and perhaps tomorrow after Sona does need to be tempered with the sort of realpolitik of the internal battle still taking place within the ANC. But no doubt, President Zuma hasn't been offered any protection. I don't think he could have anyway. I think the prosecuting authorities will take their course with him. Again, what happens eventually, let us say, should he be found guilty on charges, what happens then could very well be a different story. There could very well be still the issue of presidential pardons. Let's not assume that the President Zuma former President Zuma is going to face the music, so to speak. But look, I think that Ramaphosa is very serious about this issue. The prosecutions certainly are going to flow. We saw them flowing today in the Bloemfontein High Court. It is possible indeed that the Guptas, or one of the Guptas, are on the run. Question marks even about President Zuma's son are now in the media. We don't know about that, but it is possible. So this is a serious man who wants to show that he can turn things around. And if anything else, whilst it's a signal to the rest of South Africa, this is a signal to his own party that they better shape up or they indeed will ship out.
Daniel, those are some strong words, but we know politics doesn't work like that, right? It works with friends. You must have an allegiance, and he must build a strong ANC, and an ANC that he can take with on this new path, which will be very scary for some. I ask, any other day you search on social media ministers that should, see the back door of cabinet, but, the list is long. Is he going to be able to replace all of that Zuma legacy? And also, who does he put as deputy president?
Well, I've always given up speculating about the composition of the cabinet. One really, very rarely get that right. Look, I think that there's going to be a substantial clean sweep here of the more problematic ministries, the obvious ones. Minister Zwane, I think, is obviously in deep danger. I think Lynn Brown as well in deep danger of being left out. I think there are a whole lot of other ministers who haven't performed. I think this is going to be quite a substantial clean. The question of the deputy president is more difficult. Here, he has to balance the different constituencies within the ANC. And here the choice is going to be very, very tough. Does one just assume that the deputy president of the ANC, David Mabuza, becomes the deputy president of South Africa? Or can, in fact, a female candidate, which would then provide some gender representativity, some much needed gender representativity, I might add, can that be the hat on which different choices hung? So let's see how that pans out. My own view is that we could be in for a more novel type of cabinet selection than we might assume. And I think we could see any number of former faces who have fallen foul of President Zuma even come back into the cabinet in a variety of positions.
Daniel, I mean, this clean sweep that we are expecting President Ramaphosa to do. Right now, we've had a transition of power that has been peaceful. Will a clean sweep be as peaceful, or could we potentially get what President Zuma was talking about in his outgoing speech yesterday, that there could possibly be some violence, although he did warn against it?
Well, now, I don't take the threats of violence seriously, but I think the point has to be made that this is a dangerous period for Cyril Ramaphosa. He is a reformer, and he's a reformer who's taking on a deeply divided political party with, I might add, a fairly brittle or fragile mandate. And as a result, clearly he will have to be extremely strategic in how he plays this. It's a danger period. If you are seen to be, let us say, going over the top in your reforms, well, you can also alienate yourself in the sort of brittle, fragile balance of power that exists within the NEC and even within the top six. So I'm not going to predict that we're going to see, a complete clean sweep of the cabinet in the next week or so. And I think there will be some continuity from the Zuma administration into this administration. But broadly speaking, the core names that have been embroiled in poor governance and, for that matter, in scandal, those are the ones that are going to be left out. And that will be symbolic enough to show that Ramaphosa is now at the helm. But he's balancing. He is going to balance these different forces within the ANC. He has to. Otherwise, he himself may be in danger in the medium to longer term.